Hi, everybody. So when you start working with essential oils, a lot of people they'll want to explore essential oils because they are trying to help a dog that seems to have anxious behavior, is a little bit stressed out. And the number one way most people think about essential oils is in that category, in this emotional space. And so we're going to talk a little bit about different types of stressed out dog. And the first one is going to be a little bit different than probably you've considered before. And so I come at this with my training background and my experience with foster dogs and training dogs, and say that a lot of times what people think is one aspect, that there is a dog who has an anxious behavior, really has a dog with more generalized stress, more generalized concern about the world around them. So I very seldom find it to be limited to a specific situation. Now, that's not to say it can't be, because there are very specific situations that can happen. But your first step is to really have an evaluation or a consultation, but at minimum, step back and ask yourself, where else do I see stress in my dog? And what I see a lot of times is dogs that don't know how to do dog things. What I mean by that is, we send them outside and they go do a potty and then they come straight back in the house. They're not engaging the nose. They're not engaging sort of the sight activities of, hey, what was that? Or the hearing of, those kinds of things. They may have become conditioned to the mailman arriving, and that creates a stimulus, but they're not in a dog mode in terms of going out to forage and sniff around, being attentive to the environment around them, or even figuring out how to just go outside and relax, right? I see a lot of dogs that don't know how to do that. And in many respects, it's because they've been conditioned that way by us or by a previous owner or previous experience, but they don't know how to do dog things. And so when we start making assessments and we see the dog that sort of sleeps with one eye open, they are never really restful. Perhaps they're a little bit pacing in their behavior. They're ever alert. They are skittish, timid, whatever variable names you want to put on it. It all starts to tell a story about a bigger situation. So it's important to step back and evaluate the whole, not just these little moments in time. Okay? But what do you do about any of it, right? And so most people, when they see a dog who has some level of stress, they want to create a level of calm. And they will try to move to essential oils that are like peace and calming, or stress away, or lavender, or any of those things that are targeted at trying to calm us down or calm the dog down. And what we really may need is things that bring the dog confidence, that bring the dog an uplifted spirit of confidence, right? And so we might need to put in a little bit of courage, or a little bit of belief, right? So there's an essential oil named Believe, and it's like, do I believe that I can do these things? And so you may need to be in those categories versus just trying to keep calming and quieting and almost sedating the dog, right? So sometimes we get that backwards. And it's really important to figure it out, to get it right. When we want to do things that bring confidence building exercises, we use feeding protocols. There are no bowls of food, right? There's no free bowl of food. If there is a bowl at all, it's multiple portions, and each portion is earned by doing something. There's an engagement of activity, what I call work for food, where we'll have them moving through the room, doing things like sit, watch me, touching targets, doing downstay, anything that gets them a little bit active and engaged with their human, that has some energy to it, that has a little bit of motivation to it. And then you can take those things out into the real world. There is another protocol that I love for these dogs who don't know how to use their nose. And I'm willing to wager many of you have this dog, right? Send them outside, right? Send them outside, observe what they're doing. If you don't go with them, are they quick to turn around and want to be right back in the house versus going, oh my gosh, I've got this whole big fenced in yard to go off and exploring it. If they're not doing that, they're not dogging, right? They're not dogging. So there's an exercise that I like called Feed the Chickens, where I take, now I'm not a fan of kibble, but I will use some treats. But if you're a kibble feeder, you can totally use their food. Take a portion of it and just scatter it into the grass or on a patio. The first time you do it, don't use a lot of food, because your dog may look at you like, why'd you do that? And want to go right straight back in the house. So when I start a Feed the Chickens exercise, that's their meal. If you're going to eat, go find it. Go look for it. And then those scatters over time get to be much bigger, maybe around the entire pool deck or around the big grassy area outside, and they've got to go forage around looking for food. That puts them in a different state of mind and gets the mind in a different gear, right? Those kinds of activities can help shift the stress that we see show up somewhere else. So when you hear people say that dog needs a job, his job might be finding his food or earning his food through those kinds of activities. Teach him a new trick. Teach him high five, right? Teach him to roll over. Teach him anything that is new that challenges him. The first few days of teaching something new like that to a dog that hasn't had to learn anything in quite a while is going to be a challenge. He's not going to want to engage. He's not going to want to participate because he doesn't understand it. And you might get frustrated, so you have to be careful with that. But as he achieves different pieces of the bigger trick or the bigger component of training, right, as he does each little piece of it, that's reward worthy, that's praiseworthy, and his confidence will grow and he will feel more comfortable trying the next phase or getting a little braver about those things. So all of this does come together in a way that's helping the dog build his confidence, getting his mind off of what has kept him in a stressed out state. It changes the patterns of behavior. It creates engagement with you, which is the best thing for them, right? That's really what they want. And it moves them. It gets the body moving and it gets the mind moving, which is super beneficial to their overall energy, to their overall state of mind, to their overall frequency. And these are the things that we need to do most to help any dog with any type of stress, distress, anxiousness, insecurity, things of that nature. You can't build anything else until you start building a more confident dog. So do essential oils play into this? Totally. But remember, I said it may not be an essential oil that says you need to calm him down, right? You may be suppressing him too much which is why sometimes people say, well, it's not working. He's not getting any better. That's because you haven't really addressed the core of what the dog needs to learn how to dog, right? The other big piece of this equation is the food he eats. It could be the wrong protein source, meaning you're feeding him turkey and perhaps he needs something that's a bit more warmer, right? Something that is a bit more energetic. It could be that there's too much carbohydrate in his diet. It could be that he is weighed down with filler and feeling a little bloated and a little like, you know what it feels like when you've had too much of something, right? And if that's happening on a sustained basis for him, he just may not feel like moving very much, right? And it could certainly be part of the toxic burden that we keep talking about. So when you hear me bring these things up and have a module that talks about toxic burden or chemical load, I don't do that just because I think it's a key talking point. It really does matter. When we get the body and the mind and the spirit all working together to do what they do best, then we can have a healthier, thriving animal. And if any of those components are out of whack, then you're going to see behavioral issues. By nature, dogs are not going to be stressed out. They're going to be out having fun, doing dog things, right? Certainly, environmental factors of all kinds, including experiences that they have had with humans, with other dogs, with you, those relationship pieces matter. So if you've got a dog that got his butt kicked by another dog in the house, then yeah, he's going to be a little apprehensive around the other dog. If we go around with our own set of stress and our own set of frustration, and we're loud and we're big and animated and we're having, sort of these meltdowns daily, your dog is picking up all of that energy and going, I'm going to just stay away from that. I don't want to I don't know what to do with it, so I'm going to stay away with that. And over time, you have a dog that's like, I got nothing. I don't even want to, right? And it all comes together. We know that they have imprint phases as young dogs. The first one happens in their litter with their mama and the litter mate. So if any of that went wrong, we could have a situation where a dog has early on developed fear and insecurity. We know another one of those phases happens more around the 7 to 8 month of age mark, where a balloon brought into the house could flip them out, right? Just something new, a new sound, a new visual thing, something they've never experienced before, could create an imprint of fear and insecurity. We also know that harsh, traumatic experiences can weigh on their state of mind, right? So if someone really was inappropriate with this dog, even just loud and intimidating, not necessarily abusive in the way most people want to define it, but just loud and intimidating and nonstop, stop it, 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 right? And there is no praise. The dog never finds where he's doing something right or never finds where he's pleased his people. Those things can create all of these behaviors. And so this is why I brought essential oils into my training practice in the first place. And it's why I can't separate them out now. But when people ask me daily, my dog is showing signs of anxiousness, or my dog seems to be really stressed out, the answer is not, here, try these oils. It's let's talk about the rest of what we see in that dog's behavior, the rest of what has, or at least the part of the story we know to be true, not one we're making up, not one we think might have been, but what we know to be true and what the dog can actually tell us, and he can, through a series of questions that I ask or a series of interactions with that dog and so on. And from there, we can come up with a more complete idea of what it is we need to move them forward. And again, it could be body, it could be mind, it could be spirit, that we need to help them really become a whole dog. So this is to tell you, I know a lot of you have the dog that you want to solve an anxiety kind of issue, right? Those problems are very real. They're not the norm. They will not get better over time unless you do something that changes the pattern, changes the process, changes the experience, and gives the dog a way out, gives the dog a way forward. But it is not as simple as saying, my dog is stressed out, let's put essential oil A and B on him and expect that to work in all circumstances. For some of you, you might get it right the first time, right? For most situations, I see these dogs come into my client base all the time for board and train, for phone consultations, for in-person consultations, for a variety of things. And I can find it, right? You may have a little more difficulty, but I can look at it and go, you know what? And I did this last week. I said, does this dog ever make eye contact with you? And they're like, I don't know. And so I asked them to, over the weekend, just count the number of times that they felt like the dog made eye contact with them. None. That's a big deal, right? So yes, this dog has an anxious behavior. He's fearful. But there's far more to the story. The relationship between this human and this particular dog wasn't what they thought it was. And so they happen to be part of making this improvement happen. And so that's just one piece of the puzzle, but it's things that people don't often even think to consider. Okay. So I want to help you with your essential oils, but I want you to know that the problem you describe or the thing that you see may not be the bigger issue that wraps around what it is that you're trying to do, or what you need to do to get your dog in a better state of mind. Okay, so I can help you. I promise I can help you. We just may need to talk about it.